Toma. The Namibian actor who was paid $300 for his role in the 1980 film, The Gods Must Be Crazy, which grossed $60 million with a $5 million budget. This is his unfortunate story from a humble beginning. Toma short Nza, alternative spelling Tikin Koma or Koma, was born in December 16, 1944 in Somkwi, Southwest Africa, South Africa, present-day Namibia, before Namibia gained its independence from South Africa on March 21, 1990. Today, Somkwi is situated about 60 kilometers west of the Botswana border and 300 kilometers east of Grootfontein in the Achozanjupa region. Somkwi is just a small town with about 500 inhabitants, and it is administrative center for the Somkwi district, in which 9,000 people live, of which about 2,400 are San. Toma was a Namibian bush farmer and a member of the Sans. His mother tongue was Jew/Poansi. He spoke Johon, Achiherero, and Tswana fluently, as well as some Afrikaans. He did not know his own exact age, and before his appearance in the films he had little experience beyond his home. Toma shot to worldwide prominence after an appearance as the lead role of the 1980 comedy film, The Gods Must Be Crazy, directed by Jamie Ouse of Mimosa Films in South Africa, who found the perfect natural actor in Toma to symbolize how the outside world has affected the San. Reports say director Jamie Ouse was only the fourth white person Toma had met, and he had never seen a settlement larger than the village of huts of his San people before he was cast in the film. He became one of the most improbable and reluctant international celebrity after taking the role. In the movie, Toma, appearing as Zixo, portrayed a gentle leader of a local tribal clan of Khoisan people. He was also a sober bushman with a comic smile who discovers a Coca-Cola bottle thrown out of an airplane. Upon discovering the bottle, he sees it as an alien object, and it sets off into a comedy of errors. This comic role endeared him to viewers, especially those in Asia who were convinced that he makes 3 eccentric movie sequels. The movie grossed $60 million with a budget of $5 million, but director Jamie Ouse gave him his first cash payment of $300 for The Gods Must Be Crazy. He allegedly let it blow away in the wind or eaten by hyenas because he did not understand its value. He came from a culture that did not value the material things that money could buy, and consequently had not learned money management skills. This was despite money already being a serious matter for other San people, since many of them depended on purchased food and government aid and/or had enlisted in the South African Army due to the high wages it paid. He was, however, able to negotiate for near $500,000 for his appearance in the sequel Gods Must Be Crazy 2. He insisted that the money was needed to build a cinder block house with electricity and a water pump for his family comprising of 3 wives and their children. Both movies were shot in Namibia and South Africa before independence. In addition to The Gods Must Be Crazy, Toma starred in a series of sequels: The Gods Must Be Crazy 2, 1989, Crazy Safari, 1991, Crazy Hong Kong, 1993, and The Gods Must Be Funny in China, 1994. Mr. Ouse was criticized for being cruel to Toma and not taking him out of his environment, but to his defense, he said Toma, was born to act. All Bushmen are natural actors, he said in a 1990 interview with the Associated Press. Toma described his first flying experience on a chartered flight as mind-boggling and exhilarating thing that ever happened to him. And, despite the worldwide exposure, Toma never suffered from cultural shock, as he was still living according to his simple time-honored traditions. After his film career ended, he returned to Namibia, where he farmed maize, pumpkins, and beans on a small piece of land at Gamsa village and kept several heads of cattle which lions devoured, but no more than 20 at a time. Ko Koma himself related that whenever his herd increased in number, he sold some of them for beef as he was afraid that he was going to lose count as he was only able to count from 1 to 20. He bought a car, a Chevrolet F-250, and hired a driver at $8 a month, as he had no desire to learn to drive. But sold it later for $849 to buy more livestock. It was also rumored that he left an expensive Rolex watch in the veldt where he went to collect wild fruits known as Mkwivo in Rukavango language. Koma did not bother to go back in the veldt and search for it as it was of little value to him. At one stage, he was showered with a wide variety of goods worth thousands of dollars, but when these goods were delivered at his village, they just perished as they were left outside, exposing them to various weather elements. During his lifetime, Ko Koma only watched his movies at events sponsored by the movie house that created the films. The complimentary copies he was given, he sold. Once he sold one videotape at a price of $2.83 to a policeman living at his village. In the 1990s, with the help of Mimosa, Ko Koma built his first brick house. It was a 3-bedroom house, fully furnished, but his relatives descended on the house in vulture-like style, as many as 30 at once, to share in the wealth as his impoverished relatives were liberated from hunger. Over the years, they began to sell chairs, fridges, beds, and cupboards. In July 2000, Ko Koma converted to Christianity. He was baptized as a Seventh-day Adventist. After his wife passed away, relatives were selling the furniture for alcohol. Eventually, Ko Koma sold the house at the beginning of 2003 because he felt his relatives were abusing it. A local businessman paid him 20 herds of cattle, 5 calves, and $1,133 in a mixture of banknotes and groceries. The family said the house was valued at $4,532, but did not say when the valuation was made. Ko Koma then moved to Joko, a village 27 kilometers east of Tsumkwi. His wealth consisted of 21 cattle, 11 sheep, 2 horses, 2 bicycles, 2 spades, 2 rakes and 5 axes, including 3 traditional ones that he made himself. It was not clear how much cash is left in his estate. A few years later, Ko Koma said he was getting $113 a month from an investment Mimosa managed for him. Despite the money, Ko Koma did not want to drift from his roots. Mimosa stored his clothes at the church. When he went to big cities, we would get the clothes so he can go there looking neat. He did not show he had lots of money. Ko Koma himself had told NBC TV that he preferred to behave as if he were poor, because he feared people might use witchcraft to obtain his wealth. His community saw him as a humble person. On July 5, 2003, he woke up at 6 a.m. as usual, collected firewood and made tea that he sipped with his father-in-law. He took his bird traps, bow and arrow and a hunting pouch and set off to hunt, his main target being guinea fowl. He did not come back that day. His father-in-law tracked his spoor the next morning and found him dead on a path back home, bow and arrow still strapped to his shoulder. He died from multiple drug-resistant tuberculosis while he was out on an excursion. He was about 58 or 59 years old at the time. He was buried on July 12 in a semi-traditional ceremony at Tsumkwi in the Achozanjupa region next to the grave of his second wife. Ko Koma had 9 children and 1 stepchild from 3 marriages. 2 children died, as did 2 of his wives. He had 6 surviving children plus on stepchild. Ko Koma was admired by most Namibians, including thousands of inhabitants of the former Bushmanland, as a positive role model.